Ed, it's January 19th, 2021, 7:30 p.m. I'm going to call the regular meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission to order. Members present, Lori Sempervon, Bob Shabbat, Joe Hall, Doug Roberts. No public hearing tonight, no new business. Item E, unfinished business, commission discussion of animal unit regulation.
So we sent out, hopefully everybody got a copy of our revised, the revised document that was sort of tweaked in response to the discussion from the last meeting. The goal is just to get this as close to something the commission is comfortable with before we start the formal process. I think I said before, but I'll mention again, we have to do this. I think this qualifies for what we have to refer to CROG. So that would be a 30-day hold time, essentially. So if you guys like this, then we can refer it to CROG and schedule the public hearing to then have the formal public hearing and adopt from there. But we wanted to get your last thoughts.
I like the changes in the regs, you know, the way we discussed, and I can see how those are incorporated, and I think it's good.
Yeah, it's along the lines of what we discussed.
This is Doug. I don't feel it goes far enough. I said before that I thought we should be more on par with Stafford and Ashford. So that's my position.
So talking, excuse me, like strategy a little bit. When a commission is considering a text change to the regulations, statute says that you can always make it more restrictive during the public hearing, but you can't make it less restrictive. So if you decide that you like one of the thresholds, what the 40,000 square feet, let's say, and we have 500 people show up at the hearing and they say, we think it ought to be 25,000 square feet, you can't make that change unless we go back to the beginning and re-advertise to CROG and re-advertise the hearing. But if you schedule the hearing and have it set at 40,000 and everybody shows up and says, we think it ought to be 60,000, you can always make it more restrictive. The only reason I bring that up is because you may consider reducing the standards just to hear what people say and have the flexibility to adjust it during the hearing. I just want you to know that once we get there, we can't dial anything back.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with the changes. I think 40,000 square feet, that's takes it under an acre. And like you say, we can always get more restrictive if we have to at the hearing.
I don't know. It just seems like the public came to us asking us for one thing and we've reduced it, but I don't think it goes far enough. I mean,
Well, we literally had one person come to us, Doug.
and an acre to have a half a dozen chickens. I mean, it just doesn't seem logical to me. I don't know. And in the same hand, we're looking at reducing or making things easier in the South Willington and the village, as far as promoting businesses and things like that. And it just, I don't know, it just seems like we didn't go far enough on this.
What direction do you want to go?
So Ashley had provided what other towns had done, and basically Stafford and Ashford are saying that if you have less than an acre, you can have 6 birds, 6 hens.
So I think that the last revision that we sent out, it should have provided that you need 40,000 square feet.
For 8 hens.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so you want to go to something So we had the 80,000, which is equivalent to the zone, which is 2 acres. So you think it should go to something like a half an acre, or?
So Ashford basically says if it's less than an acre, you can have 6 birds.
So that, yeah.
So it can be a quarter of an acre?
The town, so I also do Ashford. That town name got transposed. Ashford actually doesn't regulate animals at all. You can have 10 horses on a quarter of an acre if you want. That's Ashford. So I still hear the point is still well taken. It's just, yeah, it's not Ashford that regulates the size. It's a total free for all, which is good and bad. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Let me look up Ashley's document on what Stafford had. Stafford, 1 unit per acre when kept as a single animal unit type, or half a unit on lots under an acre.
So, all right, let me see.
So the 40,000 square feet that we had in our latest draft would allow 8 birds just under an acre. It doesn't include lots smaller than 40,000 square feet. I mean, that's the break-off point. It seems to me that the issue that had evolved with this complaint was because the lots are half acre or somewhere between less than half an acre, and they were having birds on them. And because the lot's so small, the birds were within 10 feet of the neighbor's house, not property line, but house. So that's what started this. So I wonder if we're well advised to say, no, you have to have 40,000 square feet before you can have a unit. Our unit would be 8 hens in that particular situation.
But our regs also say that you have to be 100 feet from any structure.
Well,
And
and
yeah.
the thing there is, if you read further down in the draft that we were sent, it has a lot of these other things about the distances.
Well, they had to be
and
contained too.
to be contained. And all that has to do is with some of the complaints that were emanating from these small lots on the green, where the birds are in close proximity to the neighbor's dwelling. So 40,000 square feet, you've got to be X number of feet away from the house. You've got to be X number of feet away from the property line. And those regulations, I think, make better neighbors. You know, I'm all in favor of.
I don't know. I mean, I know chickens are, considered agricultural, but I mean, it just seems like 6 birds is, let's say it's equivalent of a small or medium-sized dog. And we're basically saying, nope, you can't have them unless you have an acre or 40,000 square feet. And then as far as the proposed regulations go, the changes, it's got setbacks, and then this whole thing where you have to be 100 feet from the dwelling. What does that mean? The chicken coop has to be 100 feet from any dwelling?
That is, yeah, so we took that at following, I don't know if it was the last meeting or the meeting before, some of the concerns were related to where this coop, I mean, the first complaint that we got came in was that the neighbor was uncomfortable with how close it was to her house, and with the windows open, what that meant for her. And so we kind of talked about it. Some towns regulate that and have larger distances. So I put in the 100 feet because I felt like anything more would be unreasonable. I'm not suggesting that that's something the commission necessarily needs to keep, but because the way it's laid out, we're not asking them to come in and get a zoning permit for a chicken coop that's 5x8 or something. We wanted to have some criteria in there so that they couldn't stick it as, far away from their own house, but close to a neighbor if they were, adjoining lots. I don't know that it needs to be 100 feet. Maybe 50 is enough, maybe 25, but that's a metric that we discussed.
Well, in part E, you've got setbacks, and it says structures less than 200 square feet and enclosures such as fence areas for the keeping of backyard poultry shall be a minimum of 20 feet from the side and rear property lines and 50 feet from the front property line. So then, in this other proposed thing, any structure of keeping of backyard poultry shall not be less than 100 feet from adjacent dwellings. So that's any dwelling on the property owner that owns the poultry?
No, a dwelling's a house that people live in, correct?
Right. So the idea is, even if you want to put this thing 25 feet from your property line, but your neighbor's house is only 10 feet from the property line, it won't work, because we want to have a distance between the coop and any house.
I have neighbors that have a chicken coop less than 100 feet from their property. They have more than 2 acres, but it's less than 100 feet.
So
Which kind of makes sense, because if you're harvesting eggs, why do you want to go out 100 feet from your house?
So then perhaps we can adjust it so that you can put it as close as you want to your house, but it's got to be 100 feet from someone else's house.
A neighboring property's dwelling.
Right.
Yeah, that would be okay.
Yeah, if somebody wants to have stinky chickens right near their back door, that's fine, but the neighbor shouldn't have to have stinky chickens near them.
Right.
If they don't have their own chickens. Yeah. So that makes sense.
Okay.
To adjust it.
We can make that change.
I still think if you start getting into tiny properties and having farm animals, I think this is the regulation changes that we're making, bring it more in line with a lot of the properties in town that were built before we had the 80,000 square feet. But I think if you have a really tiny property, I'm not sure it's appropriate to have farm animals when your property line is so close to neighbors.
I'm not an advocate for a free-for-all. I think we've made a pretty substantial adjustment.
Well, and I think once we go to a town meeting, or we have our meeting about this, about the regulations, those can be adjusted down. If we, if.
No, they can only be made stricter. They
Stricter.
can only be made stricter after the.
Well, stricter, going down in distances and such.
But I'm curious what the townspeople have to say about this when we have the public hearing.
One of the things I think I would say in just a general statement, there are some people that are not accustomed to animals, and they don't know about animal husbandry. And I think those are the people that get themselves into a jam with themselves and their neighbors, but it starts with their neighbors. I know many people that have chickens, and they have small coops. Some have small runs, some don't. They just have them in the building. And they have them in fairly close proximity to their house. And there is no smell. It's just that it's a matter of knowing how to take care of the birds, and to clean the coop, and et cetera, et cetera. It just boils down to good animal husbandry. So I think that's part of the battle that we face today with somebody getting involved and not having enough basic information.
So Bob, going off that, would there be a way that we could propose a special permit if it was a smaller lot and somebody was educated in how to keep chickens, you know, as far
Well,
as good best practices go?
I'm sure that the University of Connecticut has all kinds of bulletins on poultry management. 4-H probably has bulletins on poultry management. And, you know, I'd like to think that people would go to those sources. But sometimes it's easier to lead the horse to water than to make him drink.
Well, it's like a lot of things. It's fun for a little while till you got to scrape the 6 inches of crap out of the coop and keep them healthy and clean.
Right, right. Like I say, in most cases, if the coop is well constructed, and you just don't know that the birds are there. There is no smell. It's you know, in a way, I understand where you're coming from. It shouldn't be an issue. And when a lot of residents had backgrounds that touched on agriculture, various parts of agriculture, we probably wouldn't have to have this conversation. But, you know, quote unquote, we've evolved, and now we have to have this conversation. So, you know, I looking at the regs as it was with the 40,000 square feet, I think it's a good starting spot. I mean, we've evolved down now. We've looked at other communities. We've incorporated some of those things into our policies. And I think we've massaged it in a good way. Is there room for more movement? Oh, yeah. I think so. And maybe we have to hear what the residents of Willington want to say.
So if we go to public hearing and basically, I mean, we won't have 500 people show up, but let's say we have 1 or 2 people that express concerns. I mean, are we going to basically restart everything because we can't go backwards? Or I guess if we had a proposal where we're saying that if we're going the direction of less restrictive, if the public is there, is less restrictive by special permit, is that considered overall as being less restrictive, Mike? Or is that?
Well, I don't think that if we got into the hearing and the commission said, okay, well, you know, we want to change this because there's a lot of people that are speaking in favor of something smaller and we don't want to do it as of right. I don't think we could craft something that would allow for a special permit process because it would be likely a different section of the regs. It would require too much revision. So we would have to, I mean, it's not the end of the world for us to send a referral to CROG. It doesn't cost us anything. It just means we have to wait 30 days from the date we send it to hold the hearing. So it's just time. I'm not trying to use that as to move you guys in a certain direction. But could you craft something that required someone with less than 40,000 square feet to come before you to get a special permit to have chickens on a half an acre?
Do we really want to get into that, Mike?
Yeah, well, so what I'm thinking is, you know, just because I've had other towns, or I know of other towns that have tried to do this with temporary signs because they thought they would get a handle on illegal temporary signs. The problem is the special permit process is so slow and so expensive that they just do whatever they want and hedge their bets because they don't want to wait, you know, the 45 days for the hearing and pay the $300 and something application fee they don't want to go through that process
Oh, yeah.
because you can go to Tractor Supply and get a chicken coop for a couple $100, and for the cost of the application, you just
Right.
have them in your yard. And so it sort of discourages that.
Right. Yep.
I almost say let's go with what we have and see if it sticks. I mean, you think we're in a good place, Mike?
I think that we have taken a regulation that worked for pretty much no one and made a regulation that works for a lot of people. I think there's still going to be people that want chickens that can't have them.
Right.
But, at the end of the day, we've taken the thing back like 50%. And so even if the commission says we're going to hold it this way for a year or two and we'll evaluate and see where we go,
Yeah.
I don't see how anybody can criticize, because the alternative is 80,000 square feet. But, Doug's point is well taken. I don't want someone who is unhappy with a change to come to the commission and say, my neighbor has chickens and I don't want them, and you allowed it at such a small property. I don't want to be answering those either. So, yeah,
You get beat up either way.
that is the truth.
Joe's on the line. Joe, you have a farm, and do you have a?
Yes,
I mean, do you have a position? And are you?
I think.
Do you
for
know
six-
what 4-H says?
Yeah, excuse me, say it again.
Do you know what recommendations 4-H has for
No.
like?
I don't. I
Okay.
don't. Yeah, but there's lots of material on backyard homesteading and in lots as small as a quarter acre that people have. They outline people keeping hens as part of that backyard homestead. So the issue becomes the setbacks. I think are the key to the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that you're not imposing on your neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
So is 40,000 restrictive? I feel that it probably is, but that it, as Mike says, we're reducing the requirement by 50% now. But to your point, I don't think a half acre is necessary for 6 or 8 hens. But we can see where it goes with the public hearing. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these lots in Willington, it may be a half acre lot, but most of it's treed. So the area where you keep the birds and everything is actually much smaller than that, even though, it meets the criteria of half an acre. The actual space that's usable in there that's not, has forest on it or whatever is usually a lot less.
Right, but with the 100-foot setback from a neighbor's dwelling.
You're gonna have a hard time in some of these neighborhoods meeting that. Like, you look at like a road like Schofield where the houses are all laid pretty closely together, the older homes there.
I mean, do you want to work with 50 feet on that? I mean, I know people that have the coop, maybe 35 feet from their house. I mean, we're basically saying that they can put the coop as close as they want to their dwelling. And then as long as they have 50 feet from their house to the neighbors, I mean, you could, try to skin it down a little bit that way.
Yeah, I mean, I have just over 2 acres. I have my lot's 225-foot frontage. So if I
Yep.
had 100-foot between my neighbors, I would have a very small window basically of where I could put the thing. And that's with a lot over 2 acres. So.
Well, maybe we have to be more realistic about that setback.
Yeah.
I mean, we're having a conversation, so, why don't we talk about the setback?
Yeah, it seems like, well, for the setbacks up above and where the regulations are, I think it was 25 feet from the side and 50 feet from the front. I guess it almost seems like if you wanted to go with 50 foot, it would be more reasonable, or just scratch it all together and just stay with the 25 and 50-foot setbacks.
Well, the problem with 25-foot setback is if your neighbor's house is very close to the side. I
Well,
just
their
worry
house,
that,
their house shouldn't be any closer than 25 feet from their line either.
Depending
So,
when the house was built, though.
yeah,
It's
depending on when it was
pre-zoning,
built.
it might be.
hmm.
I just want to make sure that we're not creating such a lenient regulation that then we create a situation where neighbors have nuisances next door
Hmm.
that.
But
fit
you're
the
also assuming
regulation.
people are gonna follow the amount they're supposed to have, which,
Right.
you know, let's be realistic.
Well, I
Yeah.
think, I think the 50-foot can be reduced a bit. You know, I think if we went to 50, we're still, I mean, for a coop with 8 birds, you know, 50 feet from a sideline of a property, I think is reasonable. And that
To
would
Bob-
cut down on just an awful lot of complaints with people saying, well, that means I have to have the coop in this little strip down the center of my backyard as opposed to off to the side a little bit.
Well, there are two, we're talking two different things though. Are we talking 50 feet from the neighbor's dwelling and allowing for 25 feet from the sideline, which those are two different things, but they can, you know, they can be mutually inclusive, but, you know, if we say 50 feet from the sideline, that may limit people who have smaller lots. If
Right.
their neighbor's dwelling is farther away, I think it should be 50 feet from the dwelling, but 25 feet from the side property.
I would agree with that. 50 feet from the neighbor's dwelling, a minimum of 50 feet.
Right.
Okay.
We can make that change. So from my end, do you want, the only change I'm hearing that has consensus is going from 100 feet to 50 feet and requiring that to be for adjoining or adjacent dwellings rather, and not the actual owner's dwelling. Other than that, are there any other changes to make? Do you want us to revise and bring it back to you? Or do you want us to revise and refer it and schedule the hearing?
Go ahead and revise and refer it, in my opinion.
I would go along with that, yeah.
And I'm very interested in what the you know, whoever shows up, these Zoom meetings aren't, in my opinion, as well, are not a good representation of having a real meeting down at the town hall where people can come down and really express their opinions in a public hearing. I know this checks the box, you know, while COVID's going on. But, you know, I'm just not a big fan of like a handful of people deciding, you know, how things go.
Right, right.
You know, and if anything, we can make it 50 feet, but it gives us room to back it back up to 100 if we got a lot of adverse reaction.
Yep.
You know, like a neighborhood like I live in, you never get, it's not an issue here because the houses are far apart, but you get
Yeah.
people living in close proximity, it becomes a much bigger issue.
Well, and you get neighbors that are quote unquote sensitive to what's in, you know, what's close to their property or what's in the neighborhood, which they don't think should be in the neighborhood. I mean, everybody has their opinions and, you know, sensitivity seems to play into that a lot of times.
Well, I'm not anti, you know, chicken by any means, but they're farm animals.
Well, they are,
They're not pets.
true. Although some 4-H'ers, their projects turned into pets.
Yes. And as I recall, this started as a complaint from the woman that came before us, her son considered them pets.
Well, you also had the complaint from the people that put in the complaint from the historical commission, and they were talking in excess of, it was a large number of birds. It wasn't just a handful.
Yeah, I'm aware of that situation. It was before those folks moved out, there was chickens on the green.
Yeah. Well, I think by eliminating free range, that takes some of the stress out of this situation
Yeah.
in of itself.
And then you'll have some people naturally, that's unnatural not to let them free range.
Yeah.
So you
that's
know, we'll
true.
hear that.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Right,
you'll-
but if
It's
you
like
don't,
we're making the Tyson factory farm, you know, we got to keep them cooped up and.
well,
right, but
they can
if you
have
have
a
5
small
acres,
outside
you
area.
can, yeah, if you have 5 acres, then they can be free range.
Right.
But the point is, your neighbors shouldn't have to be dealing with your chickens,
I agree,
and they
Lori.
shouldn't be on 74 either.
I know I go to Joe's to buy my eggs and I don't see his chickens running rampant across the landscape.
Yeah,
Go to the
we,
corner of Cedar Swamp and 195, and there's chickens in the road all summer long.
Yeah.
Batty Road too over in Mansfield.
Yeah, they can be a hazard, you know, really.
Okay, so we'll make the change to 50 adjoining properties. We'll do the referral. And based on when that referral hits, we'll schedule the hearing. So we may be able to get it in for the last meeting in February. That will be the goal. So we'll just do it that way. That there aren't any other changes that I think we'll need to make. And then from that point, you know, we'll get the hearing scheduled and you know, we'll put notice. I mean, I can put notice on our website. I mean, we can run like a legal notice or put a legal notice on the website. So at least people that are subscribed will get something. I mean, yeah, it's hard to build engagement other than posting things on Facebook, which can devolve very quickly. So, you know, everybody, it's kind of tough to get people to show up these days. But if there's any other thoughts you have as far as how you'd like us to make people aware, you know, I can put something on our website that allows people to submit their comments, you know, electronically, so they don't have to come to the meeting. I can, you know, whatever your thoughts are.
That's a thought.
Well, I think if you did that, Mike, it might give us a heads up insofar as what to expect at the public hearing.
I mean, we can do a poll. I mean, I can do a poll on Facebook, you know, do you think that the town should have less restrictive or more restrictive regulations regarding backyard hens? I mean, we can do whatever you want. Just tell me and we will gladly do it.
I think just having the material on the town website,
Okay.
they can, you know, if you have the ability to have them leave messages there on the message board, I think that would be good. I don't know if we want to take it out on Facebook and, as you say, watch it explode if it might.
I don't know how much traffic we get on our department page, but that we have that capability.
Okay. Well, that would go out as a public notice anyway, when the meeting's about to happen, to anybody that subscribes to the Willington site, isn't it?
Yep, and it would, so yeah, anybody that's subscribed to this commission would get it. We would still publish notice in the paper of
Right.
the actual hearing if people are doing it that way. Maureen is not, and I don't know when the next Willington wire would have gone out. So that probably timing won't work. So yeah, I don't have any other thoughts as far as how we could really engage with people. Facebook is the only option. So we can put something on our website and see if anybody shows up there. But like I said, I don't know how much traffic we get.
Yeah, okay. Well, we still have time if we wanted to post something on Facebook by our first meeting next month. That would give us a couple weeks till our second meeting, which this might come up on.
Yeah, I mean, I would not, based on the Facebook stuff that I've done working on other projects, if we were going to do something there, I would have it shared through like the town's Facebook page, and then have that shared into whatever the community group is. And really it would just be the Planning and Zoning Commission is planning to hold a public hearing about the following, and have a link where then they could come to our website and submit a comment. I wouldn't want it to be litigated out in the Facebook world, because I don't think that's probably going to be very productive. It would just be like an advertisement that they could come to our website for more info.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like that idea, Mike.
Okay, let me see what we can do, and we'll advertise it on Facebook and with a link to the website, with our website.
All right, do we want to make a motion to accept these proposed regulation changes as amended? So I'll make that motion to accept the regulation changes for the public hearing as amended.
so moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Approval of minutes.
Yeah, this is on me. I've had terrible luck with my computer, and Ashley did them and sent them, and I just haven't had a chance to access them because Microsoft Office is holding me hostage. So we've got the draft published. I'll get them to you next meeting. I apologize.
Okay, so we'll put
Okay.
that on the next agenda.
Yeah, but we'll get them on the website and get them in the clerk's office. The draft version. I haven't had access to them.
Okay.
Yeah, just make sure we have them before the meeting.
Yeah, I got everything fixed last night, and it just figured it wasn't fair to you to ship it all off to you the night before the meeting. So we'll get those to you ASAP.
Okay, correspondence, the EDC memo. Everybody have that?
So yeah, I don't know if you all saw the memo and had a chance
I
to look
have.
at it.
Yeah,
So I had sort of talked with you about this before, coming up with some goals for South Willington, and the EDC is trying to take a more active role in being involved in what's going on in town, but also, trying to be part of what I would call the solution. So rather than sit around and say, we don't like the regs, trying to be a participant in the discussion. So they have been working on the, and I'm a part of it. I've been participating in the discussions, and we've been talking about coming up with an approach. And so the memo is just to sort of get that ball rolling. They don't have any control in the matter, obviously. They don't have any seat at the table in the decision, but they want to sort of be the ones to present the idea and the foundation for the discussion. So this is just something else for the commission to review, and we can start thinking about moving this through the process.
could I make a comment after reading those, Mike? The only thing that I found that was kind of missing, and they made some really good points, but insofar as building, there's no mention of the style that they would entertain for new construction or expansion of older existing structures. And I'm just wondering if there couldn't be something in there that would essentially, you know, make sure that the architecture is coherent.
Yep. Okay. That makes sense.
Otherwise, I thought they made some real good points. I like the way it was set up.
I did too. My only concern is like, you know, a lot of the village is largely residential other than around the mill and some other spots. So, you know, we got to be careful whatever we're doing, how it affects the residential character of a lot of that.
Yeah. So the goal of the way that it was laid out is that it really focuses on encouraging people to use the buildings that are there, and not try to demolish and rebuild in hopes that that small scale will be appropriate for kind of what's there, so that we don't experience these growing pains while the different properties go from residential to commercial. So if somebody wants to put in a lawyer's office or a coffee shop or something small in a house that can exist quietly, much like a home occupation, that makes sense. But if someone decides they want to demolish, now they're going through the special permit process and they've got to deal with, you know, butters notifications and the whole 9 yards. So yeah, our goal is to make it easy to use what's there because we like that, and hard to do it new.
It just seems like parking is going to be in short supply if it gets into like this residential sections.
Yeah. All right, let me make these notes.
You know, I see like some of the things are like brew pubs, things like that. I envision something like maybe like that Stafford Cidery or something like that, what they have downtown, or, you know,
Yeah.
potentially.
Yeah,
That would
that's
be a
cool.
good fit.
Yeah, it's I think there are definitely some opportunities to make certain things happen there. There's a couple of key properties that we need to get kind of back online, some of which are going to be easier than others. The tavern building is probably a really key building for this whole thing, and unfortunately the owner is not necessarily very in tune with the market and with where things are. And we have I have met with her countless times, and we have sent no less than 4 people to her with a willingness to buy the building and develop the property. And she has been unwilling to sell. She wants to rent. And the people that want it are not interested in that because the type of investment it requires, they want to be able to buy it and recoup their costs over a long period of time. And they can't seem to get together on anything. And so the building has sat empty, and it's going to be really challenging if that continues.
It's called demolition by delay.
Yeah, you know, and the building is at the point now, I mean, I was in it probably 3 or 4 times in the last 4 months, and it's at the point where in the next couple of years, it's going to be unsalvageable. If someone got in there now, they could make it work. I mean, it still has really good bones, but if you have someone who only wants to lease the building, these guys that are interested in it just don't want it. They don't want to lease. You know.
Yeah,
So,
sometimes it's a sad situation.
yeah,
Well,
we've had.
this is a good start anyway, out of the, it's good to see the Economic Development Commission, you know, doing things like this.
Yeah, so I'll take these comments back to them. There'll be some tweaks, I imagine, and then, you know, they'll come back something more formal.
Okay.
Very good. Public comment. Anyone from the public?
The only person here other than commissioners I see is Ralph.
Okay.
All right.
Well, Ralph's not shy.
No, he probably wants to raise hawks or eagles. You know, he's looking for a food source with chickens.
Turkey vultures are nice. All right, staff report and discussion.
I don't have anything other than we're going to be getting into budget season. So I'll be communicating with you, Walter, about kind of what we have going on.
Okay,
They don't want
When do
any
you-
increases, so there's really nothing to talk about.
all
We
right.
can't change anything.
When do you expect to send that to me?
I just got the memo and I believe we need to have everything turned around for February. So we have a bit, but like I said,
Okay,
we can't change anything.
okay, sounds good.
That is all I have.
All right, okay, that leaves us at item J, meeting adjourned. It is, let's see, 8:16 PM.
Okay, good seeing everybody.
Yep.